I'm the director of the Advanced Architectural Design program in GSAPP, the Graduate School of Architecture, Planning and Preservation in Columbia University. It's GSAPP and the AD are sites of innovation and basically places where architecture is being challenged. And I'm very happy that with us today are also Matthew, Anam, and Guillermo. And I would like to have to give you all of you a presentation on what is the AD and what is the program, what is that you will find when you come here. But before, I would like to invite Anam, Matthew, and Guillermo to present themselves and to explain very briefly what is the connection, or what is the way that you're the AD, part of the AD community and family. Maybe Anam, if you want to start.
Yeah, hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. So my name is Anam, I am from Pakistan, and I am an AD candidate, as Andres mentioned, in my final semester. And I mean, I'll tell you why I chose the AD at Columbia. I mean, I was teaching for 2 years before coming here, and I was practicing, and I just needed a program to align and sort of get my interest together. And honestly, it's been an excellent experience so far. It's very intense. It's a very short program, goes by very quickly, and the discourse is, I mean, for me, it was perfect because I really was interested in environment and politics, so I could bring all of that together here. So I'm here now.
Excellent. Matthew, do you want to follow?
Sure. My name is Matthew Acer. I'm also in the MSAAD program. I'm from New York. I graduated with an undergraduate degree, BArch, from MYIT. And I chose Columbia since coming from like a professional background, very technical background, trying to get some sort of art design specialization, and to explore my thoughts more so than I was able to in my undergraduate degree. So this way, especially through like the history theory classes given at GSAPP, I'm able to expand far beyond what I've learned previously, which helps me understand my interests and what I pursue after Columbia GSAPP. So I found it very valuable in that way, that I was actually able to discover a lot more about myself professionally and personally.
Mm-hmm. Guillermo, do you want to present yourself?
Hello, everybody. Hi, Andres and Laila. My name is Guillermo Hevia. I'm a Chilean architect. I graduated in 2011 from Universidad Católica de Chile. So I guess I'm one of the older guys in the AAD program. I came here because, well, I was practicing architecture for about like 6 years. And I thought like a reset and a refresh in ways of thinking architecture and designing architecture was important. I chose the AAD program because I think it's a place where you both can think and design in the same way, and there's a very interesting diversity and at the same time connections between like the theoretical courses, the practical courses, the different design studios. So at the end, for me, it has been like an incredible laboratory to kind of reset all ideas and load myself with new ways of thinking and confronting architecture.
This is actually something I would like to underscore. One of the things that is very important for everyone is that this is live. Like basically GSAPP is a place that is live, is active. We're sensitive to everything that happens. And that is basically also what the AAD is about. The AAD has historically been the place, the site within the school where the most advanced notions of architecture were introduced. The idea of the paperless studios historically that were the places basically from which digital culture entered the whole discipline of architecture in Columbia was originated in the AAD. The IUD was also championing a notion of criticality that was basically reclaiming the space of metropolis at the years that Reinhold Martin was a director. With Enrique Walker, it became a site to discuss history and the importance of architecture to take the whole culture of a city and the huge pressure for architecture to operate climatically, to deal with environmental issues, to understand the notions of technology that can expand our kind of significant forms of citizenship are becoming now the engine for the AED to also keep advancing and innovating and reinventing the way architecture is relevant in societies. And I would like to introduce a little bit that and to explain how that is also part of the calendar and the and what you guys will find when you get here. So let me share my screen. Are you all seeing my screens? Can you see them? Yeah. Okay, so I would like to introduce a little bit what the AED stands for and what is that you will find and you will become part of and you will help shaping when you come to Columbia. When we look at what is happening in the world, it's inevitable to think that architecture is imbricated in every single big issue that we're part of. The new forms of production, the idea of what a human is, the way that we communicate with others online as we're doing now, the huge extension of infrastructures, the uses of the soil, the notion of what are the notions that can replace the idea of nature as a resource for us, and to think of other ways of bringing and building alliances with others, with non-humans others. If we put together all these, this is always something that is mediated, constructed, participated by architecture, and architecture plays a key role on it. What we do in the AED is actually move faster than others. Basically, we're exploring the way design and architectural design is part of these discussions. And we are working mainly on 8 lines, 8 fields that are growing and growing and that are shaping what architecture will be in the next decades. The first one, it's what is the architecture of climate crisis? And of course, this is a huge thing for everyone. This is moving budgets, this is moving concerns, this is moving basically societies and politics to rethink the way we can live together. This is a new form of togetherness that we're part of. And it's all mediated by the architecture of consumptions, by the architecture of adaptation, by architecture of reparation and mitigation. But beyond all this is basically the reinvention of our daily lives as an species, but also as a species that relate to others. The second line of work that is really important in DAD and in GSAPP is the forms, the modes of environmental engagement. What do we mean now by engagement when it comes to engage with landscapes, when it comes to engage with the atmosphere, it comes to engage with other beings and with future generations? That is something that, again, it's something that is always mediated by architecture, is constructed through architecture. And it's also a way for architecture to be really relevant, to be needed, to be transforming territories, cities, buildings, ways of living. So basically, the discussion of how we connect environmentally, we engage environmentally, is another engine that is shaping societies and is shaping architecture as a leading voice on the evolution of the world. The third one is the whole discussion of technology and how to make technology accountable. This is something, of course, that is hugely discussed these days with the discussion of coronavirus and the way it's been dealt with. How do we use big data? How do we use the tracking capacity of mobile phones? How do we organize infrastructures in a way that still forms of accountability, that we as architects treasure for societies, forms of urbanity that we're protecting and that we have the huge responsibility to preserve, is something that still can be applied to societies and that actually can be the engine for innovative forms of architecture. This is again something that is moving cities, is transforming the world. And we want to be leading this discussion, and we're leading in many ways this discussion at GSAPP and at the AED. The next one is about the notions of resources. What is the way that and materiality, what is the way that we can rethink steel, wood, glass, not as something that we discuss in terms of beauty only, not only in terms of poetry, but actually understanding that when we use wood, that means that there's forests somewhere that are going to be exploited, that there's going to be labor involved, that there's going to be resources that won't be renovated unless we do something for that to happen. Like this idea that whatever material is a trans-territorial construction is something that we're pushing as a kind of much more ambitious way of thinking cyclabilities. The potential of architecture to be mediating in interspecies relationships is a huge thing now. If we think, for instance, of the architecture of the oceans, if we think, for instance, of the architecture of the earth, if we think of the way, I remember, I mean, it comes to mind works that Anam, Matthew, and Guillermo were doing in all these lines of work that I've been part of. I've been seeing their finals or their exhibition of their work at GSAPP, and I can help thinking of so many cases in which basically architecture was reinventing the way humans relate to non-humans. And of course, these are contemporary questions. We cannot respond to this just by looking at 19th century architecture. It's something that you guys are already sensitive to, and you're part of the way architecture is part of that. So basically, we're calling you, and we're putting together people like a cauldron participated by people like Guillermo, like Matthew, like Anam, like you guys, in order to think together, what is the next steps for architecture? What's the way that we can deal with issues as difficult as these ones? For instance, what is the way that we can design social inclusivity? And thinking, for instance, of a project that Anam did in the fall dealing with gender issues, and what's the way the city could really welcome people that were being struggling with the fact that there's gender discrimination. Or for instance, I'm thinking of so many projects that are dealing also with the way refugees can be accommodated in cities and can become really an inclusive part of contemporary cities. Or for instance, what is the way the on and the offline interaction is articulated? And I can think of so many projects that are really bringing another form of intelligence and actually expanding the kind of neurological structures of humans into online structures and infrastructures. And this is something, of course, that we have amazing people working on it at GSAPP, and that you can really tap on this if that's what you're inclined. And of course, we're the final line of work could be different in a project, in a program like this, that is one of the most basically diverse programs, probably architecture programs in the world, is the colonizing design. How to be sensitive to the fact that knowledge is not only being produced in Western locations, but it's actually something that is constructed in a network of exchanges between all parts of the world, and that's basically a responsibility that we have to provide the structures, the logics, the methodologies that allowed for that huge diversity and richness of knowledge to be rearticulated. These 8 lines of work are not just theoretical things, are things that connect theory with design. As Guillermo was saying, we believe that design is a fundamental part of this discussion, that is actually a big actor in the production of knowledge. And I would like to explain how we do that. If you look at our environment, our ecosystem, we probably have some of the most clever people that have been contributing to our field in the last years, from Bernard Sumit to Kenneth Frampton to Mark Leakley to Ardina Malandraos, to young people that are important faculty members, and that you will basically get the opportunity to know, to talk to them on a daily basis, to take their courses, to select how to deal with them or how to relate to them, but also to see the work that they're doing, to go to their finals, to take part on the whole kind of amazing forms of interaction that the school allows. And basically, this is what we believe. We believe that design is a form of embedded criticality. All of us share this notion that basically design is not just about style, it's not only about beauty, or let's say that style and beauty are also means to transform the world, to transform the way that we relate with each other. And I intentionally put images of New York here because New York is our laboratory. We're totally connected in the core of Manhattan, in the border between Harlem and the Upper West Side. And we're basically surrounded, immersed in a huge accumulation of the way criticality was embedded historically in architecture, and a huge reminder that it's our responsibility to keep doing it in facing basically contemporary challenges. This we do through a series of formats. The first and the central part is the Advanced Design Studios. Advanced Design Studios are really a moment of intensity, as Anam was saying. A huge moment where basically you're confronting your own development, the experiments you decide to do, with many discourses that are circulating in the school. And we're not here instructing anyone. We're here opening a discussion. So basically, you don't have to agree with anyone. We're very much welcoming the studio to become a cauldron of discussion. I remember discussions that we kept, for instance, in studio in the 114 room, that basically no one would agree. But we have the common ground that we believe architecture is relevant, and that architectural design is the language by which we can communicate to each other, and actually that allows us to discuss. The advanced studios are really moments in which we have some of the most clever people, I would say, dealing with architecture now. Very established people, I already mentioned Bernard or Stephen Hall, but also very young practitioners like Nerea Calvillo, for instance, with this woman here, that is shaping the way architecture will be practiced in the future. All these are people that are excited about architecture in the same that they're doing relevant work. And basically you will have the opportunity to work hand in hand with them, together with them, and sharing their own concerns. Advanced studios are not about certainties, but it's about very clever people that are very informed of what's the limits of architecture, sharing with you guys what they think will be the edge, the leading edge of architecture, and working together to push the boundaries of architecture. That is the best architectural post-professional students to come to GSAPP, because we need the most clever teachers to get together with the most clever students. And that is an experiment. Basically, we're directly experimented. This is a session, for instance, in which a condominium tower was being reinvented as an engine for politics in Columbia, and you see the whole community of teachers basically discussing it. I mean, here there's more than 30 teachers kind of witnessing the moment in which students are putting together a new form of architecture, and a moment of excitement that everyone's kind of witnessing the experiment as it's happening and discussing it. And that is kind of what happens in GSAPP. But of course, you are in the center. This is, for instance, Ronak presented a huge amount of experiments that he was doing with prototypes that he had produced in the making studio, and that were not just models, they were really prototyping very complex forms of using technology to deal with the charge formation of climate in Louisiana and in Virginia, in facing sea level rise. And he was producing all these things. But basically, you're in the center producing this, but you're not going to be alone. In front of you, we'll put together the most exciting people we can find around in the world, and we will have them discussing for hours your work, discussing every single detail, and actually demanding you to be doing each day better questions, to be giving better responses, to be taking further your experiments. And that's the very simple formula that we have. We put together the most intelligent people in the world, we give them means to work, and we keep discussing and demanding more and more and more. And we don't care about the carpet, but we care about the situation that is produced here. And of course, we take this discussion further. We have, for instance, here, Peter Max, that is talking with an expert on fungi in Iceland, as part of a research that a group of students were developing with an advanced studio that was basically seeking to understand what's the way architecture can operate together with fungi. And that's something that basically made this group travel to Iceland and to have the opportunity to meet the most important scientists on this and collaborate with them. And here, all this group is discussing particular examples that no one has seen, no one beyond the domain of scientists have seen before. And I'm sure that Guillermo, Matthew, and Anam could tell you many other things. I remember Anam discussing with Silvia Federici gender issues in a bar for hours, and then bringing that knowledge back to the studio, for instance. The second part is transcolor arena design. This is a fundamental part of of the AD. And basically it's a weekly discussion that normally we do normally in the summer, but this year, of course, will happen in the fall. It's the moment in which the whole AAD class comes together. And that's actually something amazing, because the AAD class is a very, very unique ecosystem of people coming from all around the world. And in that discussions, we put together basically more than 300 architectural projects, historical and contemporary architectural projects, designs that were crucial to understand the empowerment of design and the way design is part of all these discussions, and how divided these discussions are, how rich it is, how different it is to talk of climate in projects like the ones that COP Himmelblau developed in the 70s, to the way Philip Van discussed it, or Nerea Calvillo, and all these differences are the ones that we discuss in Transcolarities. It's a unique moment for the AD class, and it's meant to basically expand the whole culture of design and understand that it's part of larger discussions that connect theory with philosophy, with architectural criticism, but also with politics at large. The second part is arguments. Arguments will happen in the summer, so it will be this year, will be your final semester. And it's the moment in which we bring some of the most important thinkers, designers. Here we have Forma Fantasma, Jack Halberstam, Keller Easterlin, Laura Poitras, people that are really leading the discourse of the world. Laura Poitras, Oscar winner in the Academy with movies like Citizen 4, or Forma Fantasma, who just opened an exhibition in Serpentine Galleries that is called Cambio, or Keller Easterlin, author of explaining what are being embedded in the design of territories, airports, loading docks, offshore economies. All these people, each year we bring a bunch of the most important people each year. So we have the opportunity to directly discuss with them, but this is something that is highly curated. Like, you guys will be reading their texts, discussing them with instructors, to learn how to pose questions, how to construct your arguments, how the best people in theory are doing that, so you become also empowered by learning how to do that. And then you have the opportunity to really interrogate in a very direct way. There's days that we stay basically more than 2 hours discussing with the guest speakers and knowing everything that they've been writing. So basically, this is an amazing moment for the whole AAD to gain criticality and connect it to what is happening in the world. I mean, there's very little to say about the visual technology electives that you probably don't know. We have probably the most rapid response in terms of technology and representation in the world now. We have people like Laura Corrigan that is doing these amazing forms of representing architecture in a way that is allowing to mobilize reality in a very different way. This is, for instance, a work that's presented in the Venice Biennale that was basically detecting the places that had light but no people in the world, and the places that had people but no light, as a way to reconstructing the territories where architecture was needed, and understanding situations that by no other means could be mobilized. And we have the same with technology. So these are the moments in which basically you will have the opportunity to engage with representation technology. I mean, I could give so many examples of how this moves to design, and you can choose in this pool. This is what you will find basically normally. Like the first semester, it's normally in the summer, advanced architectural design studio, transcolarities, arguments. The second advanced, you basically during the second semester, like that's what basically Anam, Matthew, and Guillermo found. The second semester, you get immersed in the whole cauldron of GSAPP and get mixed with the MArch students. And the third semester, you keep mixed with the MArch students, and you have advanced studios, you take another elective in visual and technology. You can also take extra courses without paying extra tuition. And basically, but this year we're changing it for obvious reasons. And I think it's going to be really exciting. I know that many of you are asking about this. We will be moving to something different. sorry. We will have basically the first semester, we will have advanced studio. You will have the possibility to take an elective, but then you will have also transcalarities and arguments you will have at the last semester. I think this will be because you will find opportunity to get directly to the whole cauldron of connection with earmarks. Of course, we will curate that and mediate on that. We will have transcalarities every Friday. So Fridays will be for the AD to get together and keep discussing these 8 points that I started with. We will also have the something new that we launched with you guys this year is the technocritical assemblies, a meeting that we will have every Thursday in the evening, in which basically you will have the opportunity to discuss the leading edge of technology and representation from a critical and political perspective. And that is the way that we will curate for this change. But it's also great that in a way, we can keep also the last semester as something very special. We will keep arguments as a moment in which you will then, at the end of the semester, reconnect with criticality and discuss with all these visiting speakers the way that you understand the connection of design with critical thinking. And we will have something very unique, is the overlapping of you guys as graduating students and the new ones starting, the new AAD students arriving. So your work will also have the opportunity to basically leave a legacy to the newcomers. But in order to also take advantage of this, we're preparing very unique studios in which basically we will take much farther this year the possibility of transdisciplinary methodologies. We're already kind of designing a number of studios in a way that there will be opportunities for you to connect to other agencies, departments, centers, laboratories within the school and beyond. So I think that the change, which is a change that is not only reacting to the fact that we have to defer the beginning of the semester, is also reflecting at the growing importance of interdisciplinarity in dealing with issues like the coronavirus is put on the table. So it's a way to even take further the whole transdisciplinary ambition and mission of the AAD. So I know that you're concerned about this, and this is a way of basically not only reacting to something that we have to react to, but also taking critical advantage of it as a way to advance the program and the methodologies of the program one step farther. I think it's going to be really exciting to share with you, to share this with you. Of course, the ADs have many opportunities to travel. Every spring we have traveling studios, but also we have a number of them in the fall, and we'll have something similar in the summer also for you guys. We travel to basically, I want you to see the background. So basically we go there where things are happening, deserts, but also glaciers. And that's something that, I mean, you can see through the work that basically the works are allocated there where things are happening, and this is fundamental part of what we believe. We believe that architecture is not a discussion, let's say, a useless discussion just to have fun, like gentlemen or gentle ladies having fun discussing their things, but we actually think that we're here to change the world and being sensitive to the urgencies that we as a whole are facing, not only architects, but the planet at large. These are, for instance, some of the works that have been very recently developed. And this is, for instance, an amazing work that was developed by Simin and Jinin that were basically looking at the way the whole material can allow without extracting new materials, just by recombining what already exists to adapt to climate change and to basically follow the requirements of the Paris Agreement. So this is a totally innovative work that is basically starting with something very practical. How do we respond to the goal of reducing emissions, but without mining? And that's the extra thing. Just by developing a software and a methodology that would allow to remove existing materials and recombine them on existing buildings in a way that would allow to go through this whole transformation without new consumptions, without new mining. It's called Mining the City because it's actually mining on what already exists. It's an amazing project that I totally encourage you to find ways to know more about. But this is a project that is almost ready to keep being developed, to keep being applied in a way to the transformation of the city. Well, this is, for instance, just to show, I mean, I could show so many projects. I already mentioned the project that Anam developed on gender issues and gender equality through architecture. But this is an amazing project, for instance, that is reconsidering the way a city like New York would deal with waste, and it's created all these infrastructures that are through interspecies relationships and agreements, finding ways for New York to coexist with its toxicity. This is an amazing project that was developed in collaboration, in discussion, and mobilizing knowledge from more than 20 scientists that were transferring this knowledge and kind of collaborating with architects that were students from the AD program mostly, that were basically making it possible through design to take advantage to the state of the art in scientific knowledge. And this is basically what we do throughout the year, but that in the summer studios. And we will, in this year, the summer studios will be conclusive and will be already bridging the opportunity for you to basically think the next steps of your career. We always say that basically the AD, we bring clever people that already have a voice in architecture. Like Guillermo, for instance, has a long trajectory in architecture before he came here. He's well known in Chile, actually. He's got books published, and Matthew and Anam have already done important things. Other people are coming right from school, and that's not a problem, but they already have their concerns, and that's why you've been admitted in the program. And they already have an inclination to be critical with certain things and a capacity to deal with them. What the AD does is not creating this interest, but actually empowering them, making it possible for you to have a very strong voice in the field of architecture, leading that voice. So kind of champion that voice to be leading architectural evolution. And that's really what we do. And as important as this is important of networking and what's the next steps. And as you know, the AD allows you to, for those that are not US citizens, allows you to stay longer in the US. And we have an amazing tradition also of supporting each other, rethinking what's the way your career can be empowered. And that's something that we do in many, many different ways that probably you already know. And that is also a fundamental part of the AD. So this is the way I would explain in very limited time what the AD is about. But of course, I must say something. The AD is not fixed. As you know, we're changing it. We're changing it basically to keep being responsive to what happens in the world and being keeping a voice in it, and have, in a way, leading the way the field of architecture will be transformed to basically become relevant in dealing with contemporary issues. This is where I finish my probably introduction, and we have the great opportunity to now discuss. I'm not sharing my screen anymore, right? Okay, so I think that we have the great opportunity to be now responding to your questions. I think it's also very important that Anam, Matthew, and Guillermo are the ones that are mainly speaking, because you will have the opportunity to talk peer to peer in a way. But of course, I'm totally also here to respond any issue that you want. And also, I, at this point, also want to reiterate my total availability to talk to any of you, either through email or even to organize a call if it's needed, to have any conversation of any question that you can have. So maybe Laila, if you want to lead the Q&A.
I mean, while Laila is setting this up, I can just jump in. Is that okay?
Okay, yes, of course.
I mean, I think, Andres, thanks for the presentation. I just was taking some notes, thinking about some of the things you were saying. It's kind of like memory lane for this year, but also like trajectory for what work would be like. And some of the key things that I was really thinking while you were speaking was the notion of a laboratory. And I think, sort of imagine this is what it would be, and this is what it truly has been, you know, because it's really a testing ground for anything you're excited about, anything you're interested in, anything you don't even have enough information or knowledge about. but we kind of have this amazing faculty, students, resource like hub at Columbia, which like if there's anything you just want to learn or you are even afraid of, you will always have someone to help you get better at it and test your ideas. So you can kind of push your really critical voice to a really far edge, you know? So I think that's something that I have truly learned from my experience here. I mean, it's still ongoing, but it's really one of the key things I feel. And I just also wanted to add the sense of collaboration, like the diversity and these studios. It's so amazing that you can end up in the studio with people from all over the world and be so like-minded and kind of have these extremely challenging questions. And then you're just like, you know, we're all coming from a different background and we're kind of like bringing our minds together to rethink all of these things, especially like we were in your studio. And you know, like you mentioned a few times, like even our project, like I've been interested in architecture and gender previously, but I never really explored it to this extent. And it was with my peers, we really got to, you know, push that idea. So I think the environment, the people, the structure, the courses, they really allow you to do that. And that's something that's kind of really fantastic about my time here.
Guillermo, do you want to,
yeah, I can add something. Well, the other thing that was very interesting is that I guess the program doesn't start neither finishes in campus or in studio. It extends to the whole city. I was remembering myself, for example, in summer we were making like a project that was in one half of the project was a tower, the other half of the project was a device. Like I never thought that when you were designing like architecture, you will be able to address it in like so different scales. But I remember, for example, the summer issue of AAD magazine was about like new avant-gardes. So for example, what we were studying and discussing at the AAD was also a discussion happening in a magazine. But at the same time, in fall, there was an exhibition in the Austrian Center, Cultural Center about Austrian avant-gardes and how they kind of have inspired like contemporary practices. So I guess the things you are kind of discussing and testing in the AAD and in Columbia are also happening like they're all connected to the city, which is something I think very interesting. And the other thing that, well, although you are able only to take 3 studios, the thing that you are sharing, like the same space, kind of make you participating in other discussions. And I think that's something kind of interesting and the thing that I'm missing like this week that I've been working home, which is also a different kind of challenge, but like you're working on something and a couple of meters next to you is like a different studio, I don't know, creating very different things, and you're able to go there and talk to them or hearing their discussions is something very real. And I think the whole experience is crafted not only in the courses and studios you are taking, but all the things that are happening in your surroundings, let's say.
Matthew, do you want to add something?
Yeah, sure. So talking about the idea of the laboratory, coming in, like I said originally, I wanted to explore different discourses or even like explore some of my past interests. And so the fact that for the visual and technical courses, you're able to kind of choose your own path and choose your own interests, and nothing is purely prescribed to you. You're able to really hone in on different ideas. Like you could get completely out of your comfort zone by taking something of the opposite of, like, say you're never taking a model making course or some sort of experimental book course. Those kind of things to get out of your comfort zone and gives you this sort of personal values that you find in these like artifacts that you create that you never would have been able to challenge yourself to find otherwise. And I could say that I've gone to my comfort zone, and I see that there was a question about courses outside of the curriculum. And even though per se I haven't taken outside of the curriculum, but there's some that transect different schools, and I'm taking a mapping course which intersects with the School of Journalism. and it maps out different narratives and stories. And we met with, well, virtually, with editors from the New York Times, and they help us create these sort of narratives, which aren't just stories, but they're architectural, they're cartographic. And so there's these kind of like small little pockets that you find along the way that you get this opportunity to, I guess, collaborate between schools. Yeah, so that was a moment where I got out of my comfort zone and definitely learned a lot.
I mean, I could add a little bit to that. I just think that, you know, even the notion of being in your comfort zone and the idea of a curriculum, the beauty of, I think, this program is that you kind of you have agency over what the curriculum really is, you know? I mean, I can even think in the 3 semesters, I can sort of see a trajectory between my thought process as an architect or as a designer, but I can also see a distinction or a focus in each semester. Like this semester, I'm taking a course, Architect Writers with Hilary Sample. I'm taking a Makergraph, which is about bookmaking through the process of fabrication and material things, which is a very hands-on course. And while the last semester I was exploring very like heavy political real-time subjects also, like, but also this also gives you a moment of like, you know, just testing the things that you might be excited about. Like, I never thought I could write that much, but I've discovered that I actually love writing, and it's really been helping me this semester, that bookmaking and writing, and how that's also a very important part of expression for designers and architects. And I think, Matthew, like you were saying, like, you know, it's really up to you how you take agency of this program and how you really reap the benefits of what these amazing people have to offer, and not just the professors, again, I think really also from your peers.
One of the things that I wanted to sort of bring, many students submitted questions about specifically how the change in the semester structure will impact the students who normally take the summer to sort of get up to speed with where the MArch students are. And so Andres, if you could speak a little bit more in depth about maybe what the first few weeks of the program will be like in the fall, or how that time will be sort of made up.
Yes, this is very important, and I would like also to address questions that have been sent to the chat now. The first, as Laila says, of course, we're preparing very in detail what happens in the fall, and when the first days when you arrive, basically you will go through something that we call orientation. It's a moment in which basically you're taking around so you can basically understand what's the way the school works and the university at large. What are all the resources that you have access to? What is the way that you can gain that access and make the best of it? But also there's something about really knowing what the school is about, meeting the people, having the opportunity to talk to everyone, having the opportunity to know the names and how to reach to them, not only kind of in a formal way, but in an informal way. This is crucial. This year, orientation is going to be very much expanded for the AD group. So basically the AD class will have the opportunity to know everyone and spend more time and basically make up for the fact that you basically will arrive at the moment that the whole school is being occupied also by the MArch students. But not only this, basically, of course, we will have the number of studios ready for you to choose. You will have a pool of around 20 studios. You will have all the courses, history and theory, tech, visual. Like basically, you will have the opportunity to choose in a school that is dimensioned, taking into account that you will be arriving there and you will be bringing your own interest, and that you will find the whole ecosystem ready for that. Also, as I said, you will have courses that normally we would be giving in the summer happening in the fall. One of them is transcalarities. Transcalarities is very important. That happens the first semester that you're here, because it's the moment in which the whole AED class, have the opportunity to engage in a common discussion, and it's the introductory moment for you to basically take decisions on what is the trajectories that you want to take. And you will gain the ability to do that, so you can basically keep defining your trajectories in the spring and the next summer, the summer of 2021. We will also have something unique, very, very much new and introduced for this, which is basically that every Thursday we will have what we call the technocritical assemblies. We will be meeting at 6:30 after studio every Thursday in one of the auditoriums. And each week we will have two people coming to speak that are representatives or kind of experts from two of the fields in which architecture is now expanding. For instance, we will have someone maybe come in one session to speak about data mining, and we will have this person discussing with the hardware that is making that data be available and what is the architecture of the hardware. So basically, we'll have someone from the side of the software discussing with someone from the side of the hardware. And they will have a discussion in which basically you will have the opportunity to understand not only what is the state of the art with regards to that, but also what's critical about that. What is the way that is being politically and critically discussed? And also you will get to know who is who and who is in the whole, in the entire ecosystem of Columbia dealing with these issues. So in the future, and that goes to the question about extracurriculum courses that Santiago posed, basically you will gain the opportunity to know what are those courses that you want to take in the next semesters. Another thing that will happen is that basically the summer will change radically. And this is something that is very important. Someone was asking if basically there will be enough studios in the summer. Of course, we're already planning to have more studios in the summer because there will be we will double the number of studios because we will have the AD class that is graduating together with the class that is arriving. But the AD class that is graduating won't be mixed in the same studios than the graduating one. You guys will basically enter into an experimental version of the studios in which basically design instructors will be working together with some of the institutes in GSAPP. We're talking, for instance, of course, all this is happening now as we speak, but basically we're talking with people of the Earth Institute. So there might be a studio that is happening together with an amazing instructor that is dealing with issues of environment and together with the Earth Institute. Or we are talking to other agencies, not only from Columbia. So that basically there will be the opportunity to have these transdisciplinary joint studios. So basically at the moment that you have the maximum capacity to take advantage of these studios, you will be entering that. This is not, let's say, new for the AD, but it's taking what we've done in the past a step farther. And of course the numbers, there was someone was asking about the numbers. Sorry, the chat is moving. I don't find now the question, but probably the one that made the pose this question probably will know. Basically, the numbers are always the same. We have always the same numbers. The maximum people per studio is 12 people, and that's a rule in GSAPP. I've never seen a studio with more than 12 people, and there are studios that have 6 people. Studios that are most popular get 12 people. Studios that are less popular, they get 6 people. It doesn't mean that the ones with 12 people are better, are the best ones. It's not necessarily. Maybe it's something very unique that is happening that only a few people are excited about, and those kind of very unique people that are interested about that particular thing, they basically work very intensively on that, and that's happening. Other questions? Laila, do you want me to read questions from the chat now, or do you want to select them?
I think you should go ahead and read the ones that you can find. I'm going to answer the one about the academic schedule here in writing, since it's easy for me to answer that one.
Perfect. Thank you, Laila.
I think I can address Jerry's question about whether if we think that 1 year and summer is enough for your research. I think, at least for me, I guess the experience doesn't end when we are finishing our last studio. I think, like, for me at least, the AD is kind of a beginning, and you kind of accumulate like a lot of interests and research opportunities that I guess you will have to address them and develop them, not only at GSAPP itself, but I don't know, perhaps during the next 5 or 10 years at least. That's kind of my plan, and that's what's really exciting. I guess that I'm not returning to to the same kind of a routine that I have previously, but you return loaded with different kind of contents, opportunities, challenges. So I think that's kind of a very interesting thing, and the time that we have been here has been like incredible, and I think it's really enough, let's say, to start your new concerns.
There's one question by Jerry about what happens. I think we all have the same thing in mind. What happens if this crisis gets longer, basically? Well, of course, we're excited. We keep working all the time. Like basically now we're working remotely, like probably you are. But of course, we are considering the scenario in which basically we can get together in the fall, and we can run and start the AD together in Avery building. Of course, this is not only depending on us, but this is something that we believe, according to the estimates that the university is dealing with, that there shouldn't be a situation in which we cannot basically meet in Avery. But of course, this is in the air. There's no confidence whatsoever in the world now of what would be the evolution of this, and we're kind of together on this uncertainty. For us, we consider that it's important that we get together in the fall, and that basically we start with the possibility of interacting offline. But and we are working on this scenario. Of course, we will keep everyone informed, and we will, of course, make sure that the security of everyone and the security of societies at large are preserved, and we're part of that. And of course, we will have to adapt to the regulations and the decisions that the state, the city, and the university take. But we believe, according to what is happening in other places, that probably the scenario in which we can start working together in the fall is the most plausible one, and that is the one that we need to prepare for. But of course, we're working on this, and we're dealing with the uncertainty as everyone else. There's other questions. Please, Anam, Guillermo, Matthew, when you have responses, just jump in.
Yep, I can respond to this one. Long-term financial investment. So me personally, I took out federal loans for the entirety of education. So that was a big consideration when I was choosing what school to go to, and so that idea of investment in yourself kind of made it so, at least for me personally, I took it as that investment. So I figured that the kind of value or self-value to myself when it comes to exploring areas of research and of expanding my thoughts on what I want to do in the future, I thought had enough value that it outweighed the burdens of taking on more loans. And I could tell you that it hasn't had an effect on my experience of being in school, given if you don't, given like any architecture school, model making and printing and everything is always some sort of burden, which but that's part of school in general. But the overdue cost of school itself, I didn't feel like I had any burden whatsoever on my experience personally, and coming from somebody that has taken it out in federal loans. Yeah.
I want to add something to the question about research being carried out longer. We have the GSAPP awards that are given to people that want to develop a research after graduation. Of course, this is a very competitive thing, but it's normally research that have to do with climate, and it's kind of a continuation of the initiative of the GSAPP incubator. And now there's a number of people, there's, I guess, something like 10 people that are developing research with funding from GSAPP. But I think that something very important is that also during the time that you're in GSAPP, you will have opportunity to meet many people. it's that people also and agencies and people that you work with during the time that you're here, that you get excited. What in the long run we've seen that is providing opportunities to keep doing research. Guillermo was mentioning before that basically he takes with him now all the knowledge and projects and ideas and lines of work that he's been part of and developing at the time that he was at GSAPP. And I think this is very important because it's not only the research that he's started, but also knowing the people that is working on this, knowing what are the texts, what are the laboratories he needs to keep connected with. And that in the long run is fundamental because it becomes basically your context, I would say. I don't know. I'm trying to, Angel Castillo is saying, is the faculty looking at the current pandemic as another topic of discussion for the future of architecture and how architecture, yes, of course. I mean, how couldn't we not be discussing this? There's actually a number of discussions that are happening now in our program. For this, we have a climate summit that will happen on April 14th, I believe, or 15th. In which we will be discussing climate at this point, and the intention is also to be connected with the coronavirus crisis and how was it connected also with this way of ecosystems to change, and there's a number of discussions that are organized. The Buell Center is also organizing a number of initiatives. So yes, of course, we're sensitive to everything that happens. We're kind of a barometer of what happens in the world and what's the way it's architectural.
I just want to jump in on this this question because I was just thinking of you know, currently they're like in Cornell, Jenny Sabin is developing this 3D printed headset for like Paradigmics for their PPE, and I think Columbia again is like one of the few places like I've been taking making courses the last 2 semesters, so I'm in touch with the faculty, Josh Jordan. So I emailed him and he responded to me immediately. So I do know that the school is already like, I mean, of course, the bigger picture, but we're also doing the very immediate part. And hopefully soon we'll start doing our contribution because as designers, you know, we're not limited to like waiting to just have a discussion, but we can also act immediately in whatever capacity that we have. So I think that's one part of this discussion.
Yeah. Santiago Vasquez is asking if any of you have been TAing during your term, any other experiences working maybe in the Fab Lab or something to help cover expenses? Who wants to respond to this?
At least in my case, I haven't been TA during my term, but I have several friends that are being like TAs in fall and spring, and like they are also working in extension, in lectures, in the shops, in the 3D printings. Like there are. I've seen there are many kind of resources that will help you cover your expenses. So
yeah, there's
actually,
several.
Please, Anam, please go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say there. Yes, I mean I also haven't done a TAship or work, but I know that there are many opportunities, and we do consistently get emails, and you know, you almost always have a situation of support in like either the AV department or the Fab Lab. I mean, you can also pick things, the podcast, so the publication, so whatever you're interested in, you can kind of find a placement which helps pay a bit.
I also want to add that the AAD program has TA positions for the summer. So basically that means that we run an open call, and Guillermo and Anam actually were TA in this summer, but it's been deferral. So if they can join us next summer, we will have the opportunity to have them TA in the studios. But that's something that is also open for you. Of course, I mean, everything that happens in GSAPP, it's open to everyone. So you have to basically follow it and push a little bit for that to happen. But and there's modes to do that, like open calls and announcements, and you know, and so it's not guaranteed for everyone, but if you push for it, it normally happens. Basically, I would put it this way, and it's available. So there's possibilities for that. There's one Maria Dinor saying, question for current students, please describe your experience with transitioning to virtual classes.
I can jump in on that one also. I actually, we're in the middle of studio right now, so just jumped out to take this open house session for the hour. But honestly, I'm quite amazed with how quickly the school responded and how quickly everyone came together for this, like to just set things up. And it is different for sure, because obviously I think we're so used to being with each other all the time, but it's a good experience in what it is, you know. I mean, it definitely shows how technology can help us, and I'm really kind of impressed with like our professors like really being on top of everything. And yeah, so for me it's kind of interesting working from home, so I'm kind of enjoying but missing the experience. So yeah, it's definitely something new.
Also, to supplement for some of the studio interactions, there's been Zoom chats and set up for studios, so you get to like go in and see everybody's in the studio, the virtual studio, and all these other elements, which I think has been really interesting to see how everybody adapts, and just the positives you could find in this. So, yeah.
In my case, I think it has been like a very interesting challenge, but I guess it's not very different from how you work like in a very kind of connected world today. I don't know, I was remembering you, Andres, that are being addressed as the Shanghai, as the curator of the Shanghai Biennale, and I think that's something that happens like in distance. For example, in my case, I had like a previous work that I was doing, and I've been doing it for a year now, and it has worked perfectly. It's interesting because it challenged you, for example, to be kind of very direct. Today we were also in studio, and we were talking with Juan Herreros, who is my professor now, and you have to be very clear. Instead of showing 10 drawings, you have to show like two drawings that are very condensed and are able to show what you want to tell, and your arguments have to be like very brief, very direct, and it's I think it's a very interesting exercise as well. So I won't be afraid. I'm kind of I miss like my partners, but apart from that, it has been very interesting.
Maybe one of you guys want to respond to a question from Marie Christine Dimitri, that is asking about the way studios are presented and selected. I have recently gotten my bachelor's degree in architecture and don't know exactly what I would like to focus on in the architecture studios. Will there be an introduction session or lectures regarding the studios? How does this process work? Maybe some of you want to explain what's the way the lottery works and the whole. Yeah.
Sure. I could do it, I guess. So in the beginning of every semester, there's a series of syllabi handed out, and you get to review all the topics of all the studios. Like, let's say over the summer, we had 10 different studios and 10 very, very diverse topics. So it's understandable that coming straight from a undergraduate degree that you do not know exactly what you're going to specialize in, and I felt in a similar way. But being able to look over these different topics, you could start to sort it out and rate them, because eventually, as the semester gets closer to starting, there will be a lecture where all the studios will be presented. And at the end of the lecture, a lottery will be handed out where you fill out those studios from 1 to 10 from what you want most. And so you will most likely get your top choices according to what your interests are. And so I guess the point being that you have to pick all 10 and put them all in order, that it makes you really consider, instead of saying, I just want this one studio, that's it, I'm only interested in this, you have to negotiate with yourself and figure out all these different topics that you might not have considered previously. And so regardless of whether you know what you want to do or not, you kind of get out of your own little box of what you want to do. And I thought that to be interesting, especially since all the topics are so diverse.
And in my opinion, it goes to also what Guillermo was saying, because in a way, it's the moment in which you see the whole section of the school. You see all the studios, and you might think, okay, I would never take that one, but I want to know what happens there. And then you keep kind of paying attention to what happens there. So it's the moment also that the whole, I mean, taking into account that we have 20 studios and they're radically different. Believe me, they're radically different. So it's a good moment, right? Like,
yeah.
It's very exciting. It's very energetic. And I have my notes from when I was picking the lottery this semester. So, you know, you have to think quick, and also you have to read the syllabus very thoroughly. Like,
and I guess to complement
so you don't miss anything.
GSAPP managed like an incredible student work archive. So you can also go, because like the professors that I guess that are teaching like next fall and spring, many of them have teach previous studios. So you can go to those archives, see what kind of works they have been developing, and see what kind of research and designing lines they have been working on. So I guess it's also an interesting way to also know what perhaps you're going to work on. And the other thing is to like be very like in an open attitude. Perhaps you won't get what you think, or perhaps you will kind of push yourself to go to a less known or comfort area of yours. And I think that will kind of surprise me. At least that's what happened to me in the three semesters.
Laila just published a link to the basically what Guillermo was mentioning, the student work in our website. There's two questions that I would like to address myself. One is by LS. What is the possible academic course from this degree to a PhD in architecture, since it has no formal thesis? That's one question. The other one is, when did the school shift its focus to climate change and environment research? Is this a recent shift at the school? Okay, the first one, that's from Farah Alkuri, sorry. The first one, the AD, it's really good for many different things. There's very different trajectories that people take once they do the AD. Many people become really very critical and kind of unique practitioners, and that's the big thing. We have Renfro, for instance, that comes to my mind now, that did the AD from Dilar Escofidio, the partner. But we have amazing people basically that are leading the discourse of design. But we also have people that, being practitioners or architectural thinkers, are also doing an academic work. So basically they become professors or deans. We have many deans around the world that basically did the AD, and they lead somehow architectural academic work and education and research. And we also have people that basically go into PhD programs. That's very common in the AD. And for instance, I often see people in the Princeton program, which is probably one of the, together with Columbia and MIT and leading PhD programs. And there's always a big number of the people that are admitted. And you know that these programs have very few positions that are coming from the AD. With regards, so it's a great platform from which you can prepare for a PhD program afterwards in architecture. The second thing is this question about thesis, which is crucial. We don't have thesis, we have portfolio. And this is very important for GSAPP at large, because portfolio is the tool for you to produce your own voice. Whereas thesis is just one project. Portfolio is the whole ecosystem of work. It's a body of work in which there's writing, as Anam said, is design, is research, is everything that you've done, but edited in a way that it articulates your position in the field. And that's crucial. So we dedicate time basically to construct a tool for you to say what is the way that you want to be part of the field of architecture, what's your voice. And also you have resources, therefore, to construct it in a way that is effective when you want to get support, you want to be admitted in a particular position, you want to be given a job. So basically we dedicate time to something that is extremely useful for you, which is preparing what's your profile and what's the way you become part of the world with an empowered voice. And that's what we call portfolio, which ends up being a very well done and carefully curated book, or kind of compendium of your thinking, your work, your designs, that makes you occupy a space in the field. This is crucial. in the question that Farah did about the focus on climate and environment, we basically have a commitment with contemporary times. The AED is pulsing what's the way architecture is relevant now. And this is very important because by doing that, we advance and we really contribute to make it happen, to basically create the space for architecture to operate there. This is crucial because basically it gives you an advantage. Basically, you get there before the rest of the people get there. And that is not a matter of only being more competitive in the job market or in the world of ideas, but it's you having the excitement of entering a place of uncertainty and pushing for the discipline to gain ways and methodologies and ideas and designs to navigate that. So it's not about only the great opportunities. Of course, we know now that everyone's concerned about climate and environment. So that means that there's resources there for those that are capable of doing it. There's jobs, there's many things, there's research projects. Of course, that's also very important. You're doing a great investment to come to the AED, and we want to make sure that you get, when you leave the AED, basically you are much more competitive to occupy a space in the world, basically. Of course, that's very important, and we cannot deny that. But it's not only that, it's also something that has to do with creativity and with knowledge. You're there in the place where things will happen and that are not yet done. And therefore, during the time that you're in the AD, will gain the opportunity not to do the architecture of the past, not to repeat architectures that we already know, but actually working together in facing new ideas, in basically developing alternative forms to deal with things that in the past were dealt differently, and basically gain your own voice in the course of and champion the way the world will change. This is very important, and I will never get tired of insisting on this. We're not going to be repeating the architecture of the past that you already know how to do. You come here to do something that you don't know how to do, but that you feel that you would like to know how to do and that you want to push for it to happen. And that's, in a way, stressful. It's intense. It's kind of, there's moments that you say, oh my God, where is this taking me? But you're not alone on this. We're all in the same boat, and we're all pushing for that kind of intense feeling to be productive. And that's the key of the AD. So Sarah's question is very important because now we're dealing with the big issues that are shaping our lives in a very radical way. We're having this conversation online because we're dealing with environmental issues that are changing the way we relate to each other.
So I think that we can take one or maybe two last questions before we'll have to hang up on the call. I think that we could all do this for hours, obviously. We're all very excited about this. And I know that the school will also do our best to sort of put together like a little FAQ of the questions that were asked. And this video, of course, will be available if you'd like to watch Andres's presentation again. There are also answers to many of your questions in GSAPP's event archive. Especially, I'm just looking at this question about the Global Africa Lab. If you look for the event Building Cultures, which occurred at the beginning of the fall semester in 2019, you can see how faculty across groups invite different guests to speak in different ways. And I think that that's really important. But Andres, would you like to give a closing or maybe address any of these sort of last questions? And Matthew and Anam and Guillermo?
Yeah, maybe there's a question for current students, and maybe it's an opportunity if we address this by Michelle, Clara, for you guys, Guillermo, Anam, and Matthew, to give your kind of final remarks. Michelle says, I have a question for the current students. What is your plan after graduating from AED program? Does it radically change your plan personally and professionally? Thank you. And if you want to address this and also maybe do final remarks as a way to close the session.
I mean, I can jump in for this one. So yeah, I plan on practicing in New York City, which was one of the key reasons I also picked the AD program at Columbia. I'm currently in the process, like I just spoke to Andres last week, I'm also in the process of trying to find collaborators to expand some of my research projects. And I am also working right now already with one of my peers on a competition project. We're kind of thinking of having a side design practice just as young designers. So, yeah, I mean, I think for me, what did change was A, meeting the people, and B, also having the agency to address the ideas that I'm excited about. And, you know, instead of just thinking, just doing. So I think that's what certainly has changed for me.
I think in my case, it gives you like an amazing quantity like of tools, like of concerns, etc. So I was, for example, speaking with the collaborator we have in studio in Chile, and of course like the change that we are going to make, it's incredible, because I don't want to keep like as Andres was telling, like doing the things that I previously knew. It's important to kind of understand that like practice and architecture is a much more complex discipline to address, and it's not like perhaps in my background was like more conventional practice. So yeah, it's changed you of course personally and professionally, but absolutely in a very good way. I don't know if you thought like going into the sea was to snorkeling. Here you learn how to dive, so a whole new experience open to yourself.
Yeah, and so I feel a certain way where I came with like a more conventional background, and I felt like being in the program really helped me frame some sort of questions, whether it's going to turn into research, continued after graduation or not. And so, because I plan on practicing also, but GSAPP kind of opened up my eyes to the kind of cross-pollination of different types of architectural firms, like whether it's like research-based or design-based, things like far beyond just more conventional works. And so I'm kind of, I want to leave GSAPP possibly in a art and design position, or maybe like getting into exhibition design. So possibly being able to create these networks and these connections that you could call upon as you practice. So some sort of cross-pollination of different occupations. And so it's been a journey through the AD, and it's definitely going to be a continued journey going on.
Well, I would like to thank you, all of you, for being here and being part also of this first online open house, which is something very exciting. I would like also to thank you, Anam, Matthew, and Guillermo for being here with all of us and sharing your time with us, and also to Laila for organizing it, and the amazing team Laila works with to put this together, and to say goodbye basically, or let's or see you soon. I would like to say also that we're in a very unique moment of the world. Basically, we're seeing changes every day happening. This is something that is very sad in many ways, because it's also making many people suffer, and all of us are close to that. Also, it's a moment of huge kind of need for architecture, but an architecture that we don't know yet, an architecture that will deal with these new forms of sociabilities, new forms of communication, new forms of dealing with bodies and otherness, borders and transnational and trans-territorial relationships. We're seeing that we have the evidence right here, and the way architecture is part of this is huge. But we can only make the best of this presence of architecture and participation of architecture if we develop the right tools. This is our commitment, basically. So our commitment with you guys is that we're going to be, all of us, pushing and engaged with making architecture really not denial, but actually engage with the realities that we're facing. That's what the AD is about. It's what's why we're already to deal with together. That's our commitment, basically. I would like also to say that we know that this is a very important moment for you. You're taking a huge decision that has many implications of many things. It's a one time in your life decision. And it's not easy, we know that. So whenever you need, or if you need any information, if you need to talk, if you have questions, just reach to us. We're totally available, all of us. And we're here to support and to help you taking the right decision. So please feel totally free to send your questions. If you need to talk, I'm happy to have a call with any of you and to keep the discussion so you make sure you take the right decision. Thank you very much. Let's keep talking, all of us, very soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.